Today, I'm going to tell you 5 things I had to develop in myself personally so I could become fluent in English. These 5 things are mostly about your general attitude towards English learning and approach to acquiring the language. Keep listening. Hey everybody, how's it going? Thiago here, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. In case you're new here, I created this podcast to help intermediate and advanced learners of English communicate with more confidence, more accuracy, more clarity, and of course, more awareness. If this sounds like something you want for yourself and your English, consider subscribing to the channel if you are on YouTube, and if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, follow the show so you don't miss a single new episode. Also, don't forget to check out my new pronunciation course, which is available on pre-sale. This is a course designed to help you understand the main connected speech patterns that native speakers use in real life and in media. Also, you're going to learn the main sounds of the English language, so you can improve your pronunciation and speak English with more fluency and more flow. The course is available on pre-sale at a very special discounted price. If I were you, I would secure that discount right now because that price won't remain forever. To learn more about the course, you can check out the show notes or the video description or pinned comment here on YouTube. So guys, I was teaching a class last week, and then my student asked me a very interesting question. She just came to me and she said, Thiago, what do you think a person needs to become fluent in English? Just give me straight up, she said. Just give me the truth. I mean, what do you believe are the necessary things a person should have or should do to truly become fluent in English? And then I thought for a little while, and then I started listing and explaining these 5 points that I'm going to explain to you now. I talked about them briefly in this class, but then after this class, I was like, man, you know what? That would be a great episode for the podcast. So here I am today recording this podcast and going over these 5 crucial elements, in my opinion, that you need to become fluent in English. The first point that you have to develop in yourself is the habit of having constant exposure to English over a significant period of time. Okay? If you want to speak English well, you have to listen to English a lot. And I mean a lot. Those of you who have been following me for a while here, you know that I'm very emphatic about this. You really have to be listening to lots and lots of English. Also, pay attention to these keywords here. Exposure to English. Now, over a significant period of time. Meaning that, guys, I'm not talking about months here. I'm talking about years, okay? I am not the type of person who believes in quick solutions, magic pills, because honestly, that is not how I learned English. I didn't learn English in a few months. For me, it took me years to develop as an English speaker. And I really believe that for most people, that's the case. You need a few years to truly become fluent in English. This connects to the second point that I believe is essential for you to develop in yourself, and then I had to develop myself too. Patience. I had to learn to be patient. I understood early on that it was going to take me a while. It was going to take me some time to really be able to speak freely and fluently in English. And I know it's frustrating, guys, because I am just like you. I am a learner too. I'm not a native speaker of English. I also had to learn the language as a learner, as a non-native. So I know that in your journey, sometimes it feels like you are not making any progress at all. But you have to muscle through it. I love this phrasal verb. To muscle, your muscle, right? To muscle through something. When you muscle through something, you endure it. You go through it, you get through it, even if it's challenging, even if it's difficult, you made that extra effort to keep going and get the job done and finish the task. And I feel like I have to talk about this, guys. I have to talk about the importance of being patient because I see online here on YouTube and on the internet as a whole, many titles like how I learned English in 3 months, how to learn a language in, I don't know, 6 months, 1 year. In my opinion, this is just too little time. I am not saying that the people who are posting these types of contents are lying, because I do believe that there are people who are able to pick up languages or learn incredibly fast. But in my opinion, guys, these people tend to be outliers. Outliers, okay? An outlier is a person who is an exception, okay? Is not part of the norm, okay? I do believe that there are people like that who can learn a language very well in an extremely short amount of time. But for most people, I don't believe that's the case, okay? And it is true. I mean, a lot is talked about having a talent for languages or a gift. It is true, guys. Some people do have aptitude or a natural gift for language learning, okay? But even if you don't feel like you have that yourself, that doesn't mean that you will never learn English well enough to communicate effectively. And to be completely transparent with you guys, I also believe that I myself have a natural aptitude, talent, or even gift, you can call it, for languages. Because, I have a good ear for sounds, for music, because I am also a musician. I play guitar, I sing too. So I think that naturally gives me this, let's say, advantage of being able to identify intonation, imitate that intonation, and things of that nature. But even for a person like me, who, quote unquote, has a natural gift, it took me years to get to this level I have today of fluency. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't in just a few months. It took me years, okay? So what I would recommend, guys, to be very honest with you, is give yourself at least 5 years. 5 years at least of consistent studies and practice in English. Okay? Another key word here, consistent, okay? I'm not talking about 5 years on and off, yeah? You study 6 months and then you stop, and then a year later you come back. No, I'm talking about allowing yourself at least 5 straight years of intense practice, exposure, and studying in English, okay? In my opinion, that's the minimum amount of time a person needs to become truly fluent. And there's also that. I mean, when you see online people saying how to become fluent in a language in 3 months, what exactly do they mean by fluent? I mean, if by fluent you mean that you are able to travel, navigate successfully inside the airport, check in and check out at a hotel, order a meal at a restaurant in English, and maybe buy something at a shop while traveling, if that's fluency to you, okay, then I do believe that in just a few months or in a year, a person can get to this level. But for me, fluency is much more than that. And in my opinion, a person who is truly fluent is also able to deal with more abstract topics and a wide range of topics as well, of content, not just one specific situation like traveling, checking in at a hotel, these everyday situations, all right? Also remember that the intensity of your studies will determine how fast you learn. In other words, the more effort, the more you put into your English, the more outcome, the more results you will get, and faster, okay? So it's all about how much you put in. One final comment about having a natural talent or gift for language learning. Guys, I also believe that just having talent by itself doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean much, because yes, you may be naturally talented for something, like everybody is. I believe that everybody has a natural talent or aptitude for something at least, okay? But even if you have this natural gift, if you don't develop it, if you don't work at it over a significant period of time, you won't be all you could be in that field. You won't develop that field as much as you could. So coming back to myself, even though I've always had this natural ear for languages and for music, I had to work hard to get to the level of fluency I have today. You see, so I believe that hard work beats talent anytime, any day. Okay? Because talent by itself is meaningless. Okay? Unless you do something with it. And even if you don't feel particularly talented at learning languages, I guarantee that if you are a person who is focused, who is disciplined, and who studies English with intensity, you might reach a higher level of fluency than a person who, quote unquote, has an ear for languages, but is kind of lazy and never really took English learning seriously, regardless if you have a natural talent for languages or not. If English is important to you, make it happen. Talking about if English is important to you, which I believe it is, make sure you have a strong enough reason to learn English. Okay? Guys, it doesn't have to be something esoteric, something, woo, like nothing like that. Just strong enough. It could be a very pragmatic reason why you want to become fluent in English, as long as it is strong enough to drive you throughout your journey, to motivate you. Okay? In my case, my reason when I started was I wanted to be bilingual. I wanted to be able to speak both my native language and English extremely well, because I believed deep down that knowing English well would bring to my life better opportunities. And in fact, it has. I can attest to this now. But you see, it doesn't have to be something so, like I said, esoteric or complex, your reason. Just find a strong enough reason, and always remember that, because when you feel demotivated along the way, when you feel discouraged, just remember your reason, why you started to learn English in the first place. And that should give you the motivation to keep going. All right? I'm going to close this second point here about being patient with this quote. Learning any skill well is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay? A sprint is that quick, I think 100-meter race that starts and ends really quickly, right? Learning any skill, not just English, well, is more about running a marathon. It's more similar to running a marathon. Okay, guys, it does take time. Yeah. And I think honestly that this is becoming more and more challenging nowadays to understand and to apply in our lives due to the instant gratification world we live in today. Okay? Nowadays, because of technology, the internet, even AI, we have gotten used as a society to instant gratification. We have gotten addicted, actually, to instant gratification, meaning that if you want to do something, just click a button or push a button and it's done. You want to order something because you're hungry? No problem. Just grab your phone, open up your favorite app for food delivery services, choose your dish, make your payment. In about 30-40 minutes, the food is at home, ready for you to eat. You want to watch a movie? Easy. Just sit in front of the TV, open up your favorite streaming service, and choose a movie. Push the button, there you go. You see, so things nowadays are much more convenient, much more accessible, much more comfortable. This is great. Don't get me wrong. I love this era that we are living in today. Life, I think, has never been so convenient and comfortable in most parts of the world. But a downside to this is that it's making us more and more impatient. I have to be honest with you guys, and I include myself in this, okay? I'm not excluding myself, all right? For example, if I try to open a page here on my internet browser and the page takes 3 seconds longer than usual to load, inside I start getting a little bit anxious already or impatient. I go, man, why isn't the website loading? And only 5 seconds have passed before it opened. Or sometimes the internet connection here at home drops a little bit and I get disconnected for 2-3 seconds. I go, man, what's happening? I mean, why isn't the program loading? Why isn't the movie streaming? But you see, we have to be aware of this, and fight that too. Because, guys, when it comes to learning any skill well, again, like English, learning to dance, learning how to cook, to become a chef, whatever, you need time. These things inherently take time. I don't care how advanced technology is nowadays. I don't care, guys. If you want to learn a skill very well, like learning to speak English well, learning to dance, learning a martial art, even driving, learning to drive well, you need considerable amount of time and practice. So be aware of that, because nowadays it's easy for us to get easily impatient because everything happens so quickly for us. Okay? So be mindful of that. The third point I had to develop in myself, and I believe everybody should develop, is about learning to push myself and my limits. Okay? It's about getting out of our comfort zone. Those of you who just watch me here on YouTube might not believe this, but guys, I am extremely introverted in real life. It's true. I like to keep myself to myself. I'm not a person who talks much. I prefer to listen. All right? But when I was learning English more deliberately in the past, I had to get out of my comfort zone. I had to push myself and my limits if I wanted to practice my speaking skills, regardless if I was introverted or even a little bit shy sometimes. Just to give you an example here, a habit that I always had in the past was talking to strangers in English at coffee shops. Sometimes back in my hometown, I would go to a coffee shop, let's say a Starbucks, and then whenever I saw a foreign person there, native speaker of English or not, but if I realized that the person was not Brazilian, I would make sure I would approach that person and strike a conversation with that person for 4 or 5 minutes. I would go to the person and say, "Excuse me, you're not from here, are you?" The person would say, "No, I'm not. I'm traveling. I'm from this country and I'm traveling here. I am on vacation." And then I would say, "Oh, that's so cool. How do you like Brazil so far?" I always did that, even though I was always extremely introverted. You see, this is about getting out of your comfort zone, okay? Connected to that, I used to ask for feedback constantly. If I knew somebody in my social circle who spoke good English or better English than me, I would ask that person for feedback. If I happened to meet a native speaker somewhere in the city, I would start a conversation with that native speaker and at the end ask for some feedback about my English. You see, this is about getting out of your comfort zone, pushing yourself and pushing your limits. Another example I can give you about this, I've been teaching English for almost 20 years now, guys. It's been many years, okay? And in the past, I used to teach in classrooms. I used to teach in schools, language schools. And I remember that there were moments when, for example, I would try to teach the TH sound to a group of 10, 15, 20 people, And some of my students were resistant about this sound. The TH sound, the th and the v. They wouldn't tell it to my face, but I could see in their behavior the resistance, They resisted making the sound. And that was really bad because it meant that class would end. Next week, next class, it's like that class about the TH never happened because they wouldn't try to produce the TH sound in class. It's almost like they forgot it. All right? Why? Because deep down there was some resistance to making that sound. And I've heard that from some students about this sound specifically. They say, "Thiago, I'm not going to make that because it makes me feel stupid. I don't like it. It makes me feel weird. I don't want to do it." It's a choice. You see, it's a choice. But what kind of choice do you want to make for yourself and your English? So if you are afraid of speaking English, maybe you are extremely shy as a person, that's what you have to do more and more. It's about embracing your fears. I like to talk about that a lot here on the podcast. It's about embracing discomfort, embracing your fears. Do more of the thing you dread. Do more of the thing you are afraid of. If it is speaking or speaking in public in English, do more of that. If it is presenting something at work in English, volunteer to be the one presenting. Okay? Pushing yourself and your limits, in my opinion, is also about finding time in your busy schedule to consume English, to study English, and to practice English. Okay? I understand that we all lead very busy lives nowadays, but don't ever say that you don't have time to study English. Okay? What might be happening is that English learning might not be high in our priority list right now, and that's okay. You know, this is actually it's a lie that we tell ourselves. It's a lie. Like, oh, I don't have time for this now. Whenever we say I don't have time for this, what we actually mean is this is not a priority for me right now. That's why I'm not dedicating as much time to this as I could be dedicating. Okay? But if learning English well, if becoming a better communicator in English is your priority or is one of your top priorities right now in the moment, you will find time to study a little bit every day, to practice a little bit every day. Maybe you're going to have to wake up a little bit earlier than usual, maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes earlier than usual so you can study a little bit of English. Or maybe you're going to have to stay up a little bit late at the end of the day to study for 20, 30, 40 minutes. But you see, this is not comfortable, right? I mean, between staying in bed and sleeping, right? A little bit more, and getting up to study English, which one is more comfortable? Right? It's not comfortable, but it's about pushing yourself and your limits. You don't have to do that for a long time or forever, just for a specific amount of time. If learning English well truly is one of your top priorities. So you have to figure that out and reflect on that. I'm going to close this third point with a couple more quotes here. The best things in life are usually outside of our comfort zone. I've already quoted this in a previous episode. And the second quote is, there is no growth without pain. Okay? There is no growth without pain. There is no growth without discomfort. Okay? Ironically, all the comfort we have nowadays, in my opinion, is actually one of the main reasons why people are so dissatisfied with things nowadays, or why it's so hard to get us excited about things nowadays. You see? So we have to be aware of these things and fight back. The fourth point that I believe everybody should develop to become fluent in English is curiosity. Okay? In that sense, you can think about learning English like a child again. Okay? Because in that sense, children are very curious about everything, aren't they? They are extremely curious. They ask questions. They want to see how something works. So embrace more of this curiosity that we usually observe in children about English. Okay? So for example, if you are watching a movie in English, listening to a podcast, whenever something catches your attention, maybe a word, an expression, or the way something is spoken, stop the movie, the podcast, stop and wonder like, that sounded nice. What is that phrase? That sounded cool. What is that word? Here's a quote from Albert Einstein, allegedly. I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. I love that. I don't know if it was Einstein who really said this, because nowadays on the internet, there are so many quotes attributed to him that I don't know which ones were really spoken by him or said by him, or which ones were not. But regardless, this is a very nice idea, right? I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. Passionately curious. When you are passionate about something, you do that with energy, with vigor, with intensity, with excitement. You are passionately curious. So I could tell you, be passionately curious about the English language. Here's another quote by Walt Disney. Curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. Curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. Leading us, guiding us down new paths, new ways, okay? So the more curious you are about English, the more paths, the more new ways you're going to encounter to learn the language, to practice the language, to think about the language, okay? So develop this curiosity about the language, okay? In other words, be inquisitive. When it comes to English learning, as a learner yourself, be inquisitive. Let me define the word for you. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, inquisitive means wanting to discover as much as you can about things, sometimes in a way that annoys people, like a child. Children are usually extremely curious and they're always asking questions about things, but sometimes they can ask so many questions that they become a little annoying because you don't want to answer them anymore. Be like that when it comes to English learning. Anytime I spoke to an English teacher in the past who knew more English than me, or a native English speaker, I would be quite inquisitive and sometimes even annoy the person, like, okay, what other questions do you have that I can answer? You know, be like that. Be inquisitive. Be interested in learning more and more about the language. To wrap up the episode today, let me tell you a little bit about the fifth point that I had to develop in myself, and I believe that everybody should develop more and more to become successful English learners and speakers. Proactivity. Be proactive, okay? Let me define the word. First of all, Cambridge Dictionary defines proactivity like this: taking action by causing change and not only reacting to change when it happens. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, proactivity means acting in anticipation of future problems, needs, or changes. And according to Google Gemini, this is the AI tool I actually use. I've been using Gemini a lot. I haven't been using much ChatGPT, to be honest, but I've been using Google's Gemini a lot. So according to Gemini, proactivity is taking initiative and action to address situations before they become problems. It involves anticipating future needs or challenges and taking steps to prevent or mitigate them. Mitigate, reduce. Reduce the impact of something, you mitigate that. Okay? You see, so notice that in the three definitions here, proactivity has one key word: action, right? Taking action. Action in anticipation of future problems, needs, or changes. Okay? Taking action to address situations before they become problems. So proactivity is all about action. So first of all, you got to be curious. You are watching something in English, you are listening to a podcast, something catches your attention, you stop. What was that word again? What was that expression again? Okay. But don't stop there. Now you need to be proactive enough to go and look up the meaning of that word, that expression, listen back to that phrase to see how it was spoken. Okay? Now comes the proactivity part, which is about taking action, where you take some notes of that episode, that movie, and then later you sit down to actually study all that vocabulary. Okay? So, as a curious person, as a curious learner, when something catches your attention, you stop and wonder about it. And as a proactive learner, you also check the meaning or take notes to study it later. Or if you have a teacher with you or another English speaker with you, ask the person, hey, he said that. What does that mean? Do you know? What's that word mean? That's an interesting word. That's a nice phrase. I mean, what does that mean? Did you get that? You see? Being curious and proactive is also about being aware of your surroundings, minding your surroundings, okay? Maybe you go out on the street and then you see some billboards on the street, advertising something. And you might realize that there are English words in those billboards, in those posters. And then you start paying attention to those, like, oh, there's an English word there. What does that mean? Oh, yeah. Oh, so that's why that business is called this word. Okay, makes sense. You see, it's this constant observation, wonder about the language. You see, you are constantly thinking about English. Finally, being proactive as an English learner is about not waiting for somebody or something to come and save you. Okay? It's about not waiting for a teacher, not waiting for a school, for a magic pill, for a special gift to come from the sky, from the heavens, and, that gift is bestowed upon you. And now you can learn any language. Or even technology. I hear many people nowadays, guys, talking about, oh, because of AI, we're not going to need to learn languages anymore. Be careful with that way of thinking, Don't you want to learn a new language? Don't you want to learn English? Don't you want to become a bilingual or a polyglot type of person? Don't you want to learn multiple languages? One of the basic needs, I think, one of the main needs of a human being is learning and growth and development. If you don't want to learn, if you don't want to grow and develop, you want to use some technology to help you with that, how is that going to make you feel satisfied in life? How is that going to bring meaning to your life if everything is just too easy? Everything comes too easy. You don't have to make any effort, So think about that. And finally, being proactive is about making it happen with the resources you have. Okay? So don't blame your surrounding situations or circumstances. Oh, I don't have the money. I don't have this technology. I don't have a phone. I don't have this. I don't have that. I can't pay for a teacher. I can't pay for a course. Don't use that as excuses. Many people in the past were able to learn English successfully without having so many resources as we have nowadays. I was one of those people, guys. I learned English at a time when resources were not near as abundant as they are nowadays. And I made it happen. So nowadays, actually, we have many more resources. Websites, YouTube channels, podcasts, blogs, apps. Nowadays, it's also much more affordable, right, to travel, okay? It's still quite expensive for some people, I understand that, but it's much more affordable to travel to other countries nowadays than it was 30, 40 years ago, okay? So make the best of the resources you have. To recap, guys, these are the 5 main things I had to develop in myself to become fluent in English, and I believe you should be developing those things in yourself too. Number 1, have constant exposure to the language over a significant period of time. Number 2, learn to be patient. You are learning a skill that demands time. It takes effort, energy, dedication, and years to acquire and to master. Number 3, learn to push yourself and your limits more and more. Practice getting out of your comfort zone. Do more of the things that scare you or that make you feel uncomfortable, like speaking English in public, for example. Number 4, develop your curiosity for the language. Be inquisitive. Be an inquisitive learner, okay? Be curious about English everywhere you are. Be observant of the language. And last but not least, be proactive. Take action to make it happen. Don't just wait for your teacher, your school, your course to come with a miracle and suddenly make you a fluent English speaker. It's not the way that happens, okay? Resources like teachers, courses, and things of that nature, they help. They help expedite the process, make the process a little bit shorter. And they also guide you, right? But the primary responsible person for your learning is you. Guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for listening until now. Don't forget to check out my new pronunciation course available on pre-sale. With this course, you're going to learn all the main connected speech patterns of the English language so you can improve your listening skills more. And also, you're going to learn the main sounds of English so you can improve your pronunciation and speak with more fluency and more flow. Link in the description and also in the show notes for you to secure your special discount on pre-sale. If you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave me a 5-star review. And if you are on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and share this channel with your social circle so they can also subscribe and follow the videos here. And leave me a comment also here on YouTube, letting me know about this episode. What did you think of this conversation? What did you think of these points? Any thoughts? Any opinions? Share your thoughts here, and I would love to see what you guys come up with. Just remember, be respectful, be nice, okay? Guys, I'm signing off. I'm Thiago. Thank you very much, and I'll be talking to you very soon in the upcoming episode. Bye-bye.